is hard for me to remember the last time there was this much balance in college basketball, and I think it's great for the sport. Teams losing everywhere, teams moving up, moving down, everywhere really but first place, or I should say number one. Gonzaga, of course, I think you can guess, they are my number one in this week's poll. Of course, my top 25 that actually makes sense. Week 16 edition and another wild week of college basketball. So let's get down to my rankings. We'll start with the top, of course, Gonzaga staying at number one, and no surprise. You know, they blow out Pepperdine by 20. Good win against Santa Clara. They are my clear number one. They've been my clear number one for a number of weeks now. Texas Tech, how about the Red Raiders? I mean, what a week for them. Beating Baylor, beating Texas on the road. Right now, they play in one of the two best conferences in the country. So, there's a reason why I moved them up so high. To me, they've got just as good of a resume as Arizona, if not better. Yes, I know Arizona's 24-2. I don't think I have to lecture you more on the Pac-12. Now, Arizona's certainly convinced me that they are a top 5 team right now. I was not convinced of that some weeks ago. As they continue to play their schedule out and play it strongly, I am buying more and more into the Wildcats. But right now, the Red Raiders playing a better conference and really impressive wins on the resume, including 2 wins against Iowa State. Villanova, number 4 right now. What a week for Nova. Of course, winning 2 games this week, one of which was against Providence on the road, who was in my top 5 last week. And then, of course, beating Georgetown by 8. Villanova's my number 4 team. Purdue, still really strong there at number 5. Moving up a spot, 24-4 on the season. A win at Northwestern and a win against Rutgers this past week. Kentucky struggled, losing by double figures against Tennessee, but then bounced back with a win against Alabama. I'm not concerned if I'm a Wildcats fan, but I did move them down to 6. Kansas back up into my top 10 at 7. Duke is at 8. Baylor dropping a bit more, losing at Texas Tech, but again, responding with an impressive victory against a good Horned Frogs team. And then Wisconsin up 2 spots, despite the distractions on Sunday due to the Juwan Howard-Greg Gard drama. Wisconsin got a really good win at home. They get 2 wins on the week, and they are my number 10 team. Let's move to 11 through 25. Auburn continues to fall in my poll. Why? We know they haven't won pretty really all year, but losing at Florida was a gut punch, and then, of course, they did beat Vanderbilt. That's not a good Vanderbilt team. I need to see a lot more from Auburn. I get their 24-3, but they were winning ugly for a long period of time, and if you start losing close games, I'm going to drop you quickly, and that's what Auburn has done now. They're starting to do that. Houston's even more of an extreme example because of the weak schedule. We'll get to them in a minute. Providence at number 12. They take a big drop. So Providence loses against Villanova. That's not a bad loss. But then they win at Butler, needed overtime to win there. And now Providence, they're in danger of falling into that mix. So eventually I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. If you keep winning ugly and overcoming the metrics and winning games, I'm going to move you up in the poll. But once you start losing close games, we've seen this out of a couple teams, and Providence is in danger of becoming that team. I was buying into the Friars last week. Not so much now, but again, they've got the 12th best resume in the country in my poll. Illinois, number 13, they stay put. Arkansas continues to impress. How about the Razorbacks winning at Mizzou? Not a great win there, but good win against Tennessee by double figures. Tennessee stays at 15. Ohio State, the loss at home to Iowa, their first loss at home all season, but a really good win. And I say a really good win against Minnesota. They won by 25. That's what makes it a good win. I know the metrics, the net will say that's probably, a quad 2 or 3 win, but I like the fact that they did it impressively. They move down to 16. UConn up to 17. UConn with a couple wins, one against Xavier. UCLA moves up to 18. Texas stays put at 19. They go 1-1 on the week. That loss to Texas Tech. Notre Dame, I'm not worried about the Irish. They needed overtime to beat Boston College, and they lost at a very good Demon Deacons team. Notre Dame is still in my top 20. USC moves up to 21. How about Creighton? A little respect for a team that's red hot right now. They move up into my poll at number 22. Michigan State falls down to number 23. Thought about punishing them more, but here's the simple fact. Losing at Penn State is not as bad as maybe people think. We saw Iowa lose to Penn State earlier this year, and of course they lost to Illinois, Michigan State did. So they have a resume of a top 25 team. That's why they stay in my top 25 at 23. Houston moves down again. Yes, they went 2-0. They needed double OT to beat Wichita State, who's okay. But again, if you're going to play this week of a schedule, I've said it over and over and over again, you better be dominating. They did not this weekend. They moved down a spot. And how about the Iowa Hawkeyes? They are number 25 in my poll. They are undefeated in quad 3 and 4, and you may say, well, big deal. Look at a team like Rutgers, who's fighting for its tournament lives. They've got multiple quad 3 and quad 4 losses. Of course, we're talking top 25 here, I get it, but that win at Ohio State, nobody has went into Columbus and won all year. The Hawkeyes did that. Now, they did lose at home to a surging Michigan team. Of course, Michigan coming back with a loss today to Wisconsin. But the point is, Iowa right now has the resume not only of a tournament team, the metrics say they're a top 20 team. I've got them at number 25. So a couple more weeks of my top 25 that actually makes sense, and then we turn our attention to March Madness, and it should be just a wild tournament. I cannot imagine with the season we've had and the upsets we've had and the movement in this poll and just unexpected. Even the Big Ten. You look at the Big Ten if you're a Big Ten or an Iowa fan, and you see Michigan, beating Purdue by double figures. Then they get throttled by Ohio State. Then Iowa beats Ohio State by double figures. Michigan loses to Wisconsin by double figures after beating Iowa. I mean, it's just a wild series of events in this conference. This conference is tough, and that's really a microcosm of college basketball this year. A lot of balance, and I think it's great for the sport. But right now, there's no question Gonzaga, in my book, is the best team in the country. We'll see if it proves true in March. Appreciate you tuning in for my top 25 that actually makes sense for the week beginning February 21st, 2022. Stay tuned right here from the Hawkeye of the Storm. Subscribe, like this video if you've not already done so. Hawkeye content, Big Ten content, and my weekly top 25 rankings.